Gimel Tammuz season, we're going to start the Maamar Vatu Tetzaveh. The last Maamar the Rebbe edited, it wasn't the last Maamar the Rebbe said, but it was the last Maamar the Rebbe edited before the stroke of Chazayin Oder. So this is called the Rebbe's Yartzeit Maamar, that like the Rebbe writes about Basi Lagani, that the Rebbe gave out his last will and testament to the Chassidim, and this is the same thing with this Maamar.
What's his last Maamar?
The last Maamar he edited. There was one more Maamar after that. Okay, V'ata Tetzaveh B'nai Yisrael. The pasuk says in Pashas Tetzaveh. By the way, this Maamar is based on a Maamar that the previous Rebbe said in Tafresh Pei Zayin, Purim Koton. It was the year the previous Rebbe was arrested, and with the death sentence that he eventually got out of Gimel Tammuz and then Yud Beis Tammuz. And that Maamar, the previous Rebbe said the Maamar is for bringing in his house. It was Purim Koton, Tafresh Pei Zayin. Purim Koton, there was two others that year. And there was a lot of KGB guys and the secret police and all that. And the Rebbe didn't care, and he said this Maamar that speaks about Mesiras Nefesh of Mordechai in the time of Purim. That's the Maamar called the Kibul HaYudim Sheichelu Lasis. But they accepted willingly what happened to Matan Torah. So this Maamar is based on that Maamar, because this is also it was given out for Purim Koton, Tavshinun Beis, right before the stroke.
So this is Tavshinun?
The Rebbe said this Maamar Tavshin Mem Aleph. But it was edited and given out for Tavshin Nun Beis. Okay. So it says, V'ata Tetzaveh B'nai Yisrael. The pasuk beginning of Pashas Tetzaveh says that Moshe Rabbeinu, you, Tetzaveh B'nai Yisrael, you should command the Yidden. V'yekhu elecha, they should bring to you Shemen Zayizach, pure olive oil, Kosas Lamor, squeezed, pressed for light, Lahalis Ner Tamid, to bring up a continuous light. That's what the pasuk, first pasuk Pashas Tetzaveh says. And that, as we know, that Pashas V'ata Tetzaveh, there's no mention of Moshe Rabbeinu because of what he said, if not erase me from the Torah, and that's the week of Zayin Oder. Usually Tetzaveh falls on Zayin Oder. So he says, it's known the questions which is asked in many different places. In all commandments of Torah, it says, Tzaveh B'nai Yisrael. Okay, the expression is, command the Yidden. Tzaveh B'nai Yisrael. V'kan Namar, here it says, V'ata Tetzaveh B'nai Yisrael. You should command the Yidden. V'ata Tetzaveh, you. L'haisev, Dadiach Masha calls V'ata Tetzaveh. The question why it says V'ata Tetzaveh and not Tzav is Le'irav B'haloshen, is not only a grammatical thing like in the expression, it's a different expression. Here it says Tzav and here it says Tetzaveh. It has a different meaning completely. Because when the pasuk says you command, like this, normally it says like Hashem said to Moshe, command the Yidden. So who's commanding the Yidden? Hashem is commanding the Yidden. Here it doesn't say the pasuk starts off by saying you should command. That means who's commanding? Not Hashem, but Moshe Rabbeinu is commanding. Mashma Shemei Shehu Metzaveh. The Moshe Rabbeinu is the commander. It's our we need to understand. Moshe Rabbeinu's job, as the pasuk itself by Moshe Rabbeinu says, what is my role? Moshe Rabbeinu says in Chumash, to stand between you and Hashem, the Jews and Hashem, to bring you the word of Hashem. So what's Moshe Rabbeinu's role and function? The shliach, to give over to the Yidden Tzivei HaKadosh Baruch Hu. If that's the case, why does it say here V'ata Tetzaveh? You're commanding. Moshe Rabbeinu is not commanding. Moshe Rabbeinu doesn't do anything on his own. Moshe Rabbeinu is doing exactly what Hashem told him. So why does it say V'ata Tetzaveh? We need to understand also what it says, they should bring the oil to Moshe Rabbeinu. They should bring the oil to Moshe, which is a lecha, the leched, akiv, and sha'alos hanedas. Who actually lit the meneda? Aaron HaKohen lit the meneda, not Moshe. Why do they have to bring the oil to Moshe? If he would be lighting the menorah, it makes sense. He needs, but he has nothing to do with the menorah, basically. Yeah. So Hashem is commanding him, bring the oil to Moshe. Why is he saying bring the oil to Moshe? He should say bring the oil to Aaron. Also, the pasuk says kosis lam ma'or. Ma'or means the source of light. The pasuk should have said shemin lahoyed, to light. Ma'or means the source of light. We also need to understand that the pasuk next pasuk in Chumash says me'erev ad baiker, from morning to evening, from evening to morning. You had the menorah lit from at night until the morning. And here it says a continuous flame. So simply over there the Mefarshim say every night, this says it's called Tamid. But l'chayra, Tamid actually means continuously 24/7. But the menorah wasn't lit 24/7. Okay, so the Rebbe is asking a bunch of questions. Number one, why is this tzivoy different than all other tzivoyim when it says Stavez B'nai Yisrael? It's not only a difference in expression, it's a difference in the meaning. The Moshe Rabbeinu seems to be commanding when Moshe Rabbeinu is not the commander. And also, why does it say V'yikhlei lecha, they should bring the oil to Moshe Rabbeinu when Aaron was the one that lit the menorah? Also, what does it mean kosis la ma'or? Ma'or means the source of light. It should say kosis lahayin. And also, it should say, well, why does it say Erev HaBeker? And here it says Tamid. Okay? So it says, Mevarchak Me'echad Mor, so the Friedrich Rebbe explained, but Maamar Yadua, the Kibbel Ayidam Shinam Bepurim Cotton Tafresh Peizayin, the Tetzaveh, that the word Tzivoy, what does it mean? A mitzvah, Safsa V'chibur, binding and connection. The Zohar says that the word mitzvah means Safsa V'chibur, binding and connection. Therefore, what is the meaning of the pasuk? Doesn't mean you command the Yidden. Tetzaveh means you bind. Tetzaveh is B'nai Yisrael. Oisam imening tzalbarach. Okay? So the Friedrich Rebbe explains what does the pasuk mean. V'ata you, Moshe Rabbeinu. Tetzaveh binds. Doesn't only mean command. Because the commandments came from Hashem. V'ata you, Moshe Rabbeinu. Tetzaveh is B'nai Yisrael, bind the Yidden. And through this, it becomes the Yichu Elecha, you become better. You become greater. You get something that you didn't have before. He says, then Nasa Yisrim Eisafa B'Mesha. Through this becomes, through this the Moshe Mashpia. Nasa Yisrim Eisafa B'Mesha. Why? How does it become Moshe Rabbeinu an advantage of Moshe Rabbeinu? The Moshe of Yisrael, because Moshe and the Yidden are dogmas reish v'regel, are similar to.
There's a white car across the street. Because on Wednesday they have restricted cars.
Reish v'regel, Moshe Rabbeinu and the Yidden are the head and the foot. Like in pasuk in last week's parsha it says, Sheish me'eis elef ragli, the 600,000 feet. Asher aneiche bekirbai. Okay? What does that mean? The Chol Yisrael im raglaim de Moshe. Like we learned many times, the whole Jewish nation is one big body. One big body. There's the heads, the feet, the stomach, the heart. Not only that, from all generations. The earlier generations were called the heads, and then this. And now the Zohar says we are called Ikvis de Mashiach, which means the last heels right before Mashiach. We're the lowest part of the body. So the Yidden are called the feet. Moshe Rabbeinu is called the head. Just like there by the people, there's an advantage of a foot over the head. Because the feet bring the person What's the uniqueness of the feet over the head? The head, of course, is higher. But bottom line is the head wants to go somewhere. It needs the feet to take the head where it wants to go. So therefore the feet are very, very important. So if Moshe Rabbeinu is the head and the Yidden are the feet, so again it's the same thing by them. Shaydei Yisrael through the feet, the feet of Moshe Rabbeinu, Miteisiv Ilu b'Moshe, Moshe Rabbeinu becomes greater. Simply means these are the 600,000 feet that I'm in the midst of. But he says no. Shaydei Ragli Ha'am, through the feet of the nation, becomes the Gilui of Anechi B'Kirbe Shemesha. The Friedrich Rebbe explains that through the feet of Moshe, of the Yidden, Moshe Rabbeinu brings Anechi B'Kirbe through the feet. The level of Anechi comes into Kirbe, into Moshe Rabbeinu. In other words, Sheish Me'es Elef Ragli, the previous Rebbe explains, through the 600,000, meaning through the simple Jews, that causes Asher Nechi, that the level of Nechi comes B'Kirbe Shel Moshe in Moshe Rabbeinu. So of course there's an advantage of the feet over the head. What?
Anochi should come from Chochmah, not Rebbe.
Bittul, Kabbalah's oil, which is the level of Regel, that is Mamshech HaNechi, not Seichel. Seichel is limited, can't bring down a Nechi. The essence can only be brought through Bittul, Kabbalah's oil. What?
Chochmah is Bittul.
Yeah, but Chochmah is still Seichel. This is higher than Chochmah. What? Because it's Koach Ma. Being is already an understanding, I understand. There's a me that understands. Chochmah, there's no understanding yet. So just Bittul. This is what the pasuk means. You, Moshe Rabbeinu. Tetzaveh b'nei Yisrael should bind the Yidden to Hashem. And they'll bring you. This Shem and Zayis, meaning through this, the Moshe Rabbeinu binds the Yidden with Hashem. The level they'll bring to you, that Moshe Rabbeinu will become greater. So in other words, our Rebbe is explaining over here, that what does it mean? Because he asks a question, why is this different than all other mitzvahs and all the... So he explains like this. You, Moshe Rabbeinu, bind the Yidden with Hashem. And through this, that you bind the Yidden to Hashem because you stand between the Yidden and Hashem. And the Yidden are your feet, the feet, and you're the head. And therefore, in order to communicate with an outside greatness, you need the head to communicate for the foot. But nevertheless, through the feet, the Moshe Rabbeinu becomes greater. And that's why the pasuk says, even though Aaron was the one that kindled the menorah, but means through this Moshe Rabbeinu becomes greater. That means it's a very interesting catch-22 situation. Moshe Rabbeinu binds the Yidden to Hashem, and then that makes Moshe Rabbeinu greater. So he says, in Eis Gimel, and to understand this, to explain this, Magda Maamar, Friedrich Rebbe first introduces in the Maamar, Moshe Rabbeinu Nikra Raya Mehemna. Moshe Rabbeinu is called the faithful shepherd. Raya Mehemna is Zohar language, or in Chumash it's called Raya Neman, the faithful shepherd. The Shnei Perushim Azeh, there's two meanings of the word Raya Mehemna. One is the simple meaning. Shuraya Neman Shel Yisrael. He's the faithful shepherd. He does the job properly. And the second meaning is Sheuzon umefanes es Yisrael be'inyan amunah. He's not a faithful shepherd. He is a shepherd of faith. Which means, what does a shepherd do? A shepherd feeds the flock. He feeds them. So what does it mean that the Moshe Rabbeinu, or Moshe Rabbeinu in every generation, is a Raya Mehem? It doesn't only mean he's a faithful shepherd. That's a given. But what is his job as a shepherd? He's a shepherd of faith. He feeds Bnei Yisrael with faith. What do you mean?
He takes them to fields that they can...
One second. What does that mean? He feeds Jews Amunah. The Amunah She'ashin B'Yisrael Mitzad Atzma. This innate, inborn trait that every single Jew is a believer. Like it says, Yisrael Mamina B'nei Mamina. The Gemara says, Jews are believers. The children are believers. That level, that can only be many times, most times by the way, it's a very superficial level. That means a Jew believes, but it doesn't affect him internally. It doesn't permeate his being. In other words, we learn many times, you could believe in God and yet sin. Question, if you believe in Hashem, how could you sin? The answer is, the belief in Hashem is very superficial. It only affects us indirectly. It doesn't affect us directly. Because we don't digest it, we don't eat the emunah. The emunah is just superficial. What is the role of Arayim Mehem? What's the role of Moshe Rabbeinu? To internalize this essential emunah, which every Jew has, but in a superficial way. It affects them only externally, superficially. To internalize it, they affect it internally. And therefore this, that Moshe Rabbeinu feeds the Jews with amunah, it means shahamunah tiya b'pnimis, should internalize this amunah in Hashem. This is what the Zohar says. Hai amunah de la'ela. This amunah of above, the Zohar says, yitazon v'yispanis seminei, will become fed and internalized, supported al yotcha aidei Moshe, meaning the Zohar says, this that Moshe Rabbeinu feeds and gives sustenance of the amunah, meaning shemam shechayis b'pnimis. Moshe Rabbeinu brings it down internally. And as we'll learn later, the Rebbe will explain why can Moshe Rabbeinu do this? Because Moshe Rabbeinu comes from such a high level that's higher than all that stuff, and therefore he can make superficial things internal. He can make chitzanius makif, he can make a level of panini.
He could do that.
What?
He could do that for us.
He could do it, and therefore he gives us the ability to do it also. And he continues in the Maamar. This, that Moshe Rabbeinu is the shepherd of faith. Meaning he is mamshel, the faith internally. That doesn't only mean Moshe Rabbeinu of that generation. This Bashtus, the Moshe B'chol Dor, Tikkun Ezeh, which is part of Zayir, it says there's a Moshe Rabbeinu in every generation. Every generation has a Moshe Rabbeinu. So this level of Raya Mehemne is not only Moshe Rabbeinu. Every Moshe Rabbeinu in every generation that the Zayir says has a Moshe Rabbeinu in them, what is his function? To connect the Yidden with Hashem, Ata Tetzaveh B'nei Yisrael. In a way, how does he connect the Yidden with Hashem? By internalizing the superficial emunah that every Jew has, by nature, Maminim B'nei Maminim, that he internalizes this emunah. And he says, what does that mean? The Rosh Alpha Yisrael Shebechol Dor. The Moshe Rabbeinu is in every generation. They strengthen the amun of the Jews in their generation. What does it mean? He strengthens them. That the amunah that they have should be pepnimius, should be internal. Meaning that the amunah that a Jew has affects his day-to-day living in a way that he's a a believing Jew, not externally. Yeah, I believe in God, but I'll do an Avera. That he affects it in a way that it's internalized. And he gives the Mashal Mordechai. Show you his Pashtus, the Meish Shebedere. Mordechai Tzaddik, who is the Meish Rabbeinu in his generation, like it says in the Medrash. Mordechai Bedere, Kameish Bedere. The Medrash in Esther says that Mordechai Bedere was like Moshe Rabbeinu in his generation. Shagam Bisman Gzeiras Haman, even at the time of Haman's decree. Shalim Eratei V'Kiyama Mitzvahs Azah Yekosher Mesidas Nefesh. Where learning Torah and doing mitzvahs was in a way of Mesidas Nefesh. Nevertheless, what did he do? He had public gatherings of Jews to strengthen the emunah of the Jews in Hashem, and to stand firmly. Okay, so they say that the Rebbe explains in the Maamar what is this concept. The Moshe Rabbeinu is Raya Mehemna, right? He feed not only faithful shepherd of faith, but he feed the munah that Jew has. He feeds them. That means the food is there. It's all cooked. It's ready to go, but the guy refuses to eat. Like little babies, yeah, the food, they just refuse to eat. They don't have an appetite or not in the mood or whatever it is. So what does Moshe Rabbeinu do? Moshe Rabbeinu spoon feeds the babies that this emunah that's there ready to go, because every Jew is maminim b'nei maminim, but they're not digesting it, they're not eating it, they're not internalizing it. Moshe Rabbeinu makes the Jews internalize the food. Like he says, in days of Mordechai, there was a gzeira against Torah mitzvahs, and therefore the Gemara is the psukim, based on the psukim. The Gemara says, here, he gathered 22,000 kids, and when Haman came, he said, run away, and he said, no, we're with you, whatever. That Mordechai strengthened that emunah even by the kids. But Moshe Rabbeinu was the Mordechai was the Moshe Rabbeinu in his generation that had the Jews internalize this level of emunah. And after he explains the great things in that Maamar V'Kibla Yehudim, the Friedrich Rebbe says, then he explains why it says Kosis La Ma'od. One of the questions that Rebbe asked on the first page was, why does it say Kosis? La Ma'or means the source of light. The Shemen was to give light. It should say Kosis La Ha'ir. La Ma'or Shebizman HaGolus. What does it mean? In the time of Golus, when a Jew is Kosis, Nishber V'Nitka, they're broken and oppressed, which is the level of Kosis. Through this, you come to Ma'or. You come not only to the revelations of the Neshama, you reveal the Ma'or, the essence of the Neshama, Shemimenu Yamnimtza Ha'or, that the Or comes from. Huh? Hakachanik. V'tarach lahavin. Okay, so he says, what does the Friedrich Rebbe explain? That, what's the job in Mordechai's time, yeah? There were decrees against Torah mitzvahs. So what did he have to reveal in the Jews? The emunah, to internalize the Jews, to function in that generation, what that generation needed. The Rebbe is going to explain this more later, as we remember. But the Rebbe explains the role of Moshe Rabbeinu is, that's why why can't there be one long Moshe Rabbeinu? Hashem could have made Moshe Rabbeinu live 3,500 years. Because every generation needs a different avodah than the generation before it. And therefore, when this avodah is over, then you need another level of Moshe. It's the same Moshe Rabbeinu. The Moshe Rabbeinu, again, is like the battery. You put it into this toy, it goes this, and put it into this thing, it does this, and whatever it is. But Moshe Rabbeinu's role is to give and to internalize the emunah, what's needed to be connected to Hashem in that particular generation. If it was Mesiras Nefesh in the time of Stalin, that's what he did. If it's complacency in Golus, it's this generation. Every generation has a different Avodah, and Moshe Rabbeinu is guiding the Jews in that generation, what that generation needs, in a way that he internalizes it. What?
The role of the shepherd is to take the flock to a pasture that
No.
it has and the flock has to levarer, to say, to check and to see what to eat and what not to eat. It's not like he just gives them the food. They have.
What happened by Moshe Rabbeinu's time when the sheep ran away? Moshe Rabbeinu went and picked it up and nurtured it back and nursed it back to health. That's what it is. I understand. So you can lead a horse to water, you can't make him, you can't force him to drink. The role of a Rebbe is not to force anybody.
Yeah.
You don't want to, you have Bechira. A Jew has Bechira.
Exactly. Take him to the pasture.
But the Rebbe says in Perek Beis of Tanya, whether you like it or not, the Chayis from Hashem to the Jew comes to Moshe Rabbeinu. If you're dedicated to Moshe Rabbeinu, devoted, then it's a open face-to-face revelation. If not, he throws it over the shoulder. You get it anyway from Moshe Rabbeinu. There's no other way you can get it. You have to get it from Moshe Rabbeinu. So Moshe Rabbeinu leads the Jews to the pasture, like you said, and he says, eat. You don't want to, he's not going to take a stick and hit the sheep to eat.
Go look, find them,
but he's the one that brings you there and says, this is the food that you need to eat now. This is what you're eating now.
He doesn't give them food though. He shows them pastures that they have to go look.
He doesn't open the mouth and force feed the animal. He doesn't force feed. But he gives you everything else. Like the Rebbe said, the guy asked the Rebbe, what are you doing? The Rebbe explained to him the whole electrical current and he says, everything's there, but you have to flick the switch, not me.
Yeah.
I get all the electrical currents ready, I build all the wiring and to the generators and all that. I do that. Mm-hmm. Bottom line is, the flicking the switch, I'm not going to do it. You got to do it.
Wow.